Thanks, Mike. Good morning to everyone. My name is Ana Perez. I work at the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, and it's a pleasure for me to be here with you all today. I am presenting on the Resilient Reefs Initiative, which is an initiative funded by BHPF Foundation. And it started back in 2018, so back on the time when the Reef Trust Partnership was announced, so it was a very busy year, I guess, for the foundation. But this initiative is a little bit different in terms of where it takes place. So it is a global initiative, and it's all about working with communities and with reef managers across the globe to help them adapt to the impacts of climate change. And I'm not sure how to... That's the one, thank you. But before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we meet today and pay my respects to the eldest, past, present, and emerging. And I would also like to acknowledge the local communities and the indigenous people of the land and sea where we work as part of the Resilient Reefs Initiative. So their deep knowledge and their very meaningful connection to the reef have made this initiative a success. And, well, I guess I don't have to explain to an audience like you why coral reefs are so important to us, but I would like to mention a couple of things just to put things on perspective. These are that coral reefs, they are home to 30% of the ocean's biodiversity, so it's obviously a mega diverse ecosystem. And the other thing is that they provide, they nearly support 1 billion people. So that's a lot of people that rely on the reef because the reef provides the food to them, because the reef provides economic activities. Just think about cairns here and all the economic activities around the reef. It protects them from the storms, of course, and also there's a very meaningful connection between the reef and people. So we were hearing at Roger this morning thinking about his kids and how important it is for him to see them, enjoying the reef. I feel the same, and I'm sure many of you feel the same as well. So reefs are simply essential to us for our survival and for a healthy planet and for healthy people. But obviously, the reefs are at risk at a global scale, and we have been hearing a lot around that yesterday from Senator Green and also today from Roger. So definitely, climate change remains the biggest threat to the reefs. And well, I mean, we are in the middle of a coral bleaching event, a global one. So definitely, business as usual approaches are no longer enough for managing the reef. We need to do more, and we need to do better. And that's why back in 2016, so 8 years from now, at a UNESCO Marine Managers Conference, there was like an acknowledgement from reef managers in terms of how difficult it was for them and how under-resourced they were in order to manage the reef in this new environment in which there are so many threats. So they felt that they didn't have the tools, that they didn't have the resources, that they didn't have the support required to face this issue at the scale and at the pace that it was required. And pretty much that's how the Resilient Reefs Initiative was born in 2016 from this conference, as a result of essentially a request that the managers did at the global scale in terms of what was required. So what is Resilient Reefs? Really, it is a partnership. So it is about bringing together local communities, bringing together local governments and global experts, get them all together and think on the solutions required to face the impacts of climate change. So it follows a very unique approach. In fact, it looks at each area of work as a whole. It looks at it in a holistic way, and it kind of tries to work with different sectors across the environment to come up with a solution. So this model actually builds upon the 100 Resilient Reef Cities, which is an initiative that was funded by Rockefeller Foundation, and it was essentially to improve the resilience of cities in New York. So we have tried to apply that same model into the reef space, which is something, you know, quite unique. And what we have done is essentially, well, first we'll go through a few essentials. So what is reef resilience? So we heard a definition from Roger this morning around that. But I guess that the important thing about this program is that it brings social component into what resilient reefs is. And the definition that we have used is around the capacity of reef ecosystems and of the individuals and of businesses and communities that depend on them to survive, to adapt, and to recover from the impacts of climate change. So it essentially incorporates the social dimension into this definition. And building this resilience is now the new imperative from reef management. So it provides a framework for innovation, for integrated actions, and for collaboration and for adaptation. It allows us to support the ongoing health and functionality of ecosystems while also supporting the communities in the face of uncertainty. And with that in mind, we developed this reef resilience framework. So the aim of developing that framework was essentially to provide and assist reef managers and local communities to evaluate the state of resilience of the reefs. And we work with 3 different dimensions. So the ecosystem dimension and, you know, the ecosystem services associated to them, the community, and the governance arrangements that were in place. So this is something that we have used a lot in the development of the resilience strategy, and I will come up with that. But essentially, each site is looked in an integrated way, which must be understood together as a whole. And when I'm talking about sites, I'm showing here in the map the 4 sites that we identified as part of this initiative, and these are all UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So Belize, Barrier Reef Reserve System, that's obviously in the Caribbean. We have in the Pacific Islands, in Palau, the Rock Island Southern Lagoon. We also have the lagoons of New Caledonia. And we are also working here in Australia, in Western Australia, in the Ningaloo Coast. And this is pretty much what the model of resilient reefs brings into the communities. So local leadership, we have a process for strategic planning. We bring a lot of global experts to connect with the local people, and we obviously have a component of on-ground implementation, and I will go through all of those components in detail now. So in terms of local leadership, what we are trying to do is to fund a position within the agency that manages each of those reefs. So we're thinking that by embedding this person in the local organization, we will be able to promote the change that is required, and that person will be capable to bring everyone together and work and get them to work collaboratively. So this is a picture very powerful for me because it's from the 3 different CROs. Andrea at the left is the CRO from Palau. In the middle, we have Tara from Belize, and Cami, the CRO from New Caledonia. So these young women are actually the ones delivering the work for us and working very closely with us. They got together last year in one of the global convenings that we organized. This one was specifically about a workshop on communication that was led by TNC. But I think it was a very good opportunity for them to share what they have accomplished so far. And we work very tirelessly directly with these people, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that they have achieved so far. And the second component is the development of a holistic resilience strategy. And that photo was taken early this year when the resilience strategy was released for New Caledonia. So it is a very important part of what we have done in Resilient Reefs. Essentially, what we have tried to do was to, through a very rigorous process, try to provide the tools and the support required by all these different sites to come up with the actions that they require to do in order to increase their resilience. So as with any process, we start by planning and by establishing the local government. So in most cases, we establish steering committees in order to provide the oversight and to take the decisions, I guess. Then we engage broadly. So we mapped out all the different stakeholders, and it was the CRO role to bring them together, and sometimes through workshops or through surveys, capacity building activities, they will come together and identify what were the key challenges and the key gaps in order to accomplish the resilience that was required. Then we use the Reef Resilience framework that we developed to assess the resilience using those 3 different dimensions that I mentioned before, so ecosystems, governance, and community. And at the end of the day, what we did was bring everyone together again in order to identify and co-design the solutions that were required to increase the resilience of the ecosystems. So as I said, it is a rigorous process. It took longer than we thought. So we initially were thinking on a year to go through this process, but it ended up taking more time than that because obviously bringing people together and getting them to collaborate and getting them to agree on things takes more time sometimes than required. But at the end, we were able to release the 4 different strategies. And I think that it has been very positive because of all the value added of having those open conversations with people, but also how good they feel about having been able to accomplish that milestone in the way that they wanted, and actually getting with the input from all the people that was involved. And the other component of this initiative is that we connect the local people to a knowledge network that is a group of global experts. So I'm just going to name them because they have been so key in the development of this initiative. So we have UNESCO, we have the Resilient Network led by TNC, we have ACOM, Columbia University, and then we also have BHP Foundation, which, although is our funder, they work very closely as well with Pollination Foundation and with eco-advisors. So we really have been able to bring all this knowledge together, and it has been fundamental in this initiative. That is a photo of the knowledge exchange session that happened a couple of years ago in Brisbane. And we essentially bring, the local partners. We brought the global experts, and it was a very important moment for people to exchange experiences. And then obviously what we require in a very urgent way, which is moving to on-ground implementation. And for that, we provided $1 million of seed funding on each of the sites. And I'm happy to say that we have now moved from the planning phase, which was the development of the strategy, to implementation. We are fully in implementation mode now, probably until the end of 2025. In some cases, there are a few projects that will run until 2026. Also very important to mention that half of the projects were designed and delivered in partnership with indigenous peoples and communities. And now I'm going to briefly talk about the work that we have been doing in each of the different sites. So the first one is in Palau, and there we have, as a local partner, the Koror state government. There are the resilient building priorities that they have identified. These are all listed in the resilience strategies that are published in GBRF's website. So I encourage you to go through them because there is a lot of information and a lot of commonalities as well in terms of what they have put together. Sorry. So in Palau, we were able to release the resilience strategy just last year. They have moved into implementation, as I said, and what we have seen is that the role of the CRO has shifted quite a bit from, a role more focused on bringing people together and engaging stakeholders to something that is more related to project management now that our projects are in place. And a way in which we have overcome, the lack of capacity or, of the CRO in terms of that contract management area has been by, we have appointed a resilience advisor, and essentially this person provides like a mentoring support to the CRO, which has been really positive, and I think that it has been a very positive and effective way to increase the capacity at the local level. It's quite difficult to navigate through the insurances, through the WHS stuff and everything in these countries. So it is very difficult for us as well. So it has been quite a learning process, and it continues to be, but we keep learning with our local partners. In the Ningaloo Coast, Western Australia, this was the first area in which we were able to release a resilience strategy, and we had Joel Johnson working as the Chief Resilience Officer there, and he did a very good job in bringing people together. Unfortunately, and funny enough, in Australia, it was the only site in which we were not able to move into implementation. So obviously, as it happens with many partnerships, sometimes there are competing priorities between different organizations, and even though we were able to fund some small projects focused on environmental awareness in the tourism industry that are finishing right now, we were not able to implement the projects that are in the resilience strategy. So we had to put an end to that partnership early on. And then we have Belize, in which we have partnered with the Coastal Zone Management Authority and Institute. So the work here has been progressing in a very steady way. There is a lot of willingness from this organization to promote the change that is required, and we have been working very closely with them. The project that is just about to start, for example, is a watershed management project following a reach to reef approach. It brings together local, 4 different local agencies working, 2 of them in the catchments, 1 in the coast, and another one in the marine space. And this is exactly what is difficult sometimes in these countries, that working in a collaborative way and going through all the paperwork that is required to do that as well could be quite challenging. Tara, the CRO here, is working very closely with them to make that happen and to ensure that all the milestones are met. And finally, we are working on the lagoons of New Caledonia, which is a French territory. I have to say that the work here hasn't been easy, I guess. So I'm very proud, actually, of everything what we have achieved in this country, considering all the different challenges. So, for instance, we had a lot of turnover in the staff. So we have been working with 3 different CROs here. The politics are quite complex in New Caledonia as well. Even though it is a small island country, it is quite challenging because everything takes time and everything requires quite a lot of approvals. So navigating through that system has been a learning from us. Also, obviously, everything is in French, and that is obviously a barrier as well. I only speak Spanish, not French. But Overall, this is, and the resilience strategy was released this year, and it is the space where we are actually implementing the most projects. We have 6 projects underway, very different ones, very diverse. We have projects that are around identifying or using fire retardant species to prevent fire in New Caledonia, which is a big problem over there. We have projects trying to reinstate a monitoring network for identifying COTS outbreaks. They are not considered a threat in New Caledonia, but it is actually because they haven't done enough monitoring to understand what the impact of COTS is over there. So this is a project that will kick off with that process, and I think it is very valuable. And this is where you can see how all the different things that we are doing here in Australia can be translated or can support the work that is being undertaken in the other areas. And I was just listening at Roger this morning, and just made me reflect on, there's so much going on here at the Great Barrier Reef. There's so many plans, there are so many scientists. We sometimes forget how privileged we are to have all the science behind us, and such a big body of work behind the Great Barrier Reef. So it is very important that we kind of translate all these learnings into these areas where the support is really required. So just, great presentation from Roger, but yeah, it made me realize about the differences in, the different areas. And I have touched base on a few things of what we have achieved so far, but essentially we have engaged a lot of people. So we're thinking on more than 3,000 people that were part of preparing all these different resilience strategy across the 4 different sites. That means that we have been able to reach 300,000 people as local beneficiaries in all these areas. We have established 10 partnerships with First Nations people, and we obviously have, developed these 4 place-based partnerships, and we have more than 30 projects underway. So it has been quite a journey, but I think it has been very positive, and that we have achieved a lot in these years. But as with any program, we always have to think about how we can do things better, which things we need to adapt in future stages. We need to be mindful of the lessons that we learn and take action in the future. So I'm going to focus on what we are thinking on adapting for our next phase. And to start with, we are thinking that we are not going to identify a chief resilience officer in the future. And that's not because we are not very proud of what they have achieved. I think that the work that they do is actually amazing. It's just that there is a lot of risk on just increasing the capacity of one person and having the responsibility of the delivery just focus on one person. So in order to de-risk that, we are thinking that it will be better to partner an organization in which different people with different skills can be part of this program and help to the delivery of the program. Another thing is that even though the development of the resilience strategies has been a very key part of this program, we're thinking that they took too long, and obviously we require immediate action. So we are going to rely more on existing plans. We will still be using the Reef Resilient Framework in order to identify what the status of the resilience is and identify some actions, but we will rely more on the existing plans. Also, we will use an application process to select partners, partners who clearly demonstrate that they have the political will to do the work. So we are going to run expression of interest to identify these partners instead of just going with UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And finally, we're thinking on, we're not thinking, we're definitely going to change the scale, I guess, of the program, regional rather than global, and we are going to focus on the Pacific. So Pacific Island countries remain the most under-resourced, and they have, equipped to respond and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. And that's why the foundation has the commitment to work with these neighbors, and not only through the Resilient Reefs Initiative, but also through a bigger portfolio of projects. So we will focus a lot of our investment and of our, I guess, a lot of our work in this region. I'm happy to say that we have now a commitment from BHP Foundation to commit to expand this work on a second phase. So we have secured $15 million, and we are in the process of designing the next step, the next stage. And for that, we will use, and we will, all the adaptations that I have been mentioning along the way, we are going to definitely work on those adaptations for this next stage of work, which is going to look like that. Essentially, we will have three main components. The core support will be very similar to the knowledge network that we have, but also we are going to work on the resilient accelerators, which are something quite new for us. The idea of these resilience accelerators is to generate a pipeline of projects that build resilience. So these are going to be annual programs that will support between 4 to 6 projects with a same theme every time. And we will provide all the technical support that is required. And also we will bring donors into workshops that we will run once a year. Donors that may be very interested in funding these kind of projects, and we will try to get them to identify the projects that they will be that they would like to fund, and that's kind of a matchmaking process that we will follow. And then in terms of the resilience hubs, it will be something very similar to the sites that we have been funding in the past. And we are going to release an expression of interest late this year to identify the sites where we are going to be working. And that's all what I have to say today, other than thanking the team behind this project in GBRF. So it was led by Theresa Fyffe and by Amy Armstrong. I'm actually quite new in this program, not to the foundation, but to this program, and also to thank the local partners, which are the ones that are actually undertaking the work on site, and thank the knowledge network partners, which bring the global expertise required to overcome all the different challenges associated with this issue. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Anna. We have just a couple minutes for questions. Are there some questions in the room?
Hi, just a general question about traditional ownership and how the different ownership models, is there a difference of how effective that is with the scaling that you're trying to do? So in most of the Pacific, you have traditional ownership, very strong ownership over sea, country and land.
Yes.
Whereas New Caledonia, maybe that's not such a strong process anymore.
Well, it is in New Caledonia as well, and actually we do have a project in the Loyalty Island looking at establishing a natural protected area that will be led by the indigenous people over there. So yes, there's a lot of diversity within those 4 sites in terms of traditional owners, but we have been trying to, get them into the development of these resilience strategies, just working with local communities and trying to get them to be part of the design of the different actions that we have identified in the resilience strategies.
Cool.
There's a question online.
Yes, thank you. We've got one question online, which is, what would be the most critical need for the initiative, i.e. technologies, equipment, finance, human resources, etc.?
That is a good question. There are actually a lot of needs. I guess, yeah, resources are key, and increasing the capacity of people in the region is probably what is most required, because there are, I mean, as a result of the different, agreements, there's a lot of funding coming through to the Pacific and to other areas, but the difficult thing is to channel those fundings and actually get them to get into the ground and start implementation of projects. So building the capacity and an orientation, I guess, of the funding that is coming through to the right organizations so that they can do their on-ground work is what is most required at this stage.